Okay. I just had a bunch of candy, which I probably shouldn't have because now I'm all like hyper and shit. But I couldn't help myself. I got all fired up on the dream. Hi everyone, my name is Snoot. I work at Coffee Stain Studios. I'm a community manager there. And today I thought we'd talk about the map and the radar towers. Specifically the changes that we're making to the map and the radar towers in update 6. So if you didn't know, a couple of weeks ago I posted a video about pretty much all the changes that are coming in update 6. If you haven't seen that video yet, shebang, there's the card right over there. You can check it out if you want to. And yeah, in that video I mentioned that there's a bunch of changes coming to the map and the radar towers that are kind of tied into the exploration aspect of the game. So I thought today we'd talk about those things and show them off, because we've spent a significant time developing these changes, and hopefully you'll like them. So let's jump into the game, shall we? So here we are in the lush grass fields. I'm out exploring. I'm far away from home, and yeah, let's just bring up the map and see what it looks like now. Shebang! So yeah, it's a lot bigger than before. It takes up a lot more real estate on the screen. The reason why it's not taking up like the entire screen is because the game isn't like paused when you have the map menu open. The game is still running in the background. We still kind of want to show you that a little bit. So one key thing with the map too is that we've changed how you unlock it. So the map is now unlocked in the onboarding process instead of being part of like the research chain in the map. So you will have access to the map a lot earlier in the game. So as you may notice, it's a bit different. We've got a couple of more elements here that I want to bring up. So first things, I want to talk about this. We've got like a coordinate system thingy here now. So wherever the mouse cursor is, it will display like where on the map that is in terms of coordinates. You can also navigate to a specific set of coordinates. So if you want to go to like the very center of the map, you can 0, 0. This is, by the way, where all your vehicles will end up if the game bugs out. They tend to like just teleport over there. We'll fix that bug eventually, hopefully. But yeah, so this is pretty great if you want, like, if you're playing with someone, they're like, hey, check out at coordinates like 191, 1924, for instance. Like, you can check out something cool. This is where I'm at, or something like that. You can type it in. So yeah, very handy. One major change we've done to how you interact with the map is that we've done away with beacons. The main reason for this is because we felt that they were too clunky to use, and it's always awkward when you're like, you have to run up to the beacon to be able to configure it. So when you're like far away on the map and you have all the beacons like placed, you can't like remove them easily individually. You have to like actually go to them physically. You can't change the names and stuff like that. So we always felt that like it's better to just interact with them on the map. There are some cases where we feel like beacons might still be useful, so we kind of see like if we actually do away with them completely, but this system is sort of designed to like fill in, you know, sort of the same functionality as the beacons and more, sort of. So let's check it out. What we replaced the beacons with is this thing here, new map marker, right? So you can place this wherever you want on the map, and here you'll get sort of the same kind of functionality as you had with the beacons. So you can name this to be like, this is the grass fields, maybe new base, question mark, planning. You can set an icon for this. I'm quite happy with the house icon. You can set a color to it. Maybe this is our pink base. Hell yeah. You can also customize whether or not this should be a small or a large marker on the map. We'll set it to large. There's also a couple of customization options here for how it will behave in the compass. So you can set it to like never show up in the compass. You can have it to show up only when you're close to it in the compass. You can also set it to be, you know, always pretty much showing up. Yeah, apply that stuff and then we'll show up. And as you may notice here, it's showing up at the compass. Customize it so that it's off. And then it's gone. You can also do this like for, you know, like every marker that you place in the compass and like tie them all in. We'll get to that in a bit. Next up, you may notice like all these like little icons and symbols down here. So what these are what we refer to as stamps. So the stamps are kind of used for when you're out exploring on the map and you kind of want to leave like a little pin on the map. You can place these little markers here. So for instance, if you want like, oh, here's, it's kind of obvious, I guess, but you know, here's water, you know, or maybe you run into like something hazardous and you mark that out. So like, oh, remember that, oh, up on this arch, dangerous, right? So you can place these stamps all over the map, but another really cool thing with this is you can also do this in real time, in like as you're running around. So remember how If you hold Alt and you left click, you ping in the environment, which by the way also show up on the map for other players. What you can also do now is if you hold Alt and right click, you can place these stamps like in the environment. So for instance, I'll mark out this is a berry bush, the stamp is placed, and it will show up on the map here, showcase like here's the berry bush. And if you hold Alt, these stamps will like show up as you get close to them, so they will be here in the environment. So you know, as you're roaming around, you might see like a resource you want to use, so you can mark that and be like, oh, here's a cool resource. Or maybe you see like a barrel bush that you want to remember, like so you can mark that out. Or if you run into like a cave that you want to explore at some point, but you don't want to do it right now, you can also leave a little mark here, so say like, oh, here's a cave entrance. And you know, all these things will show up in the environment as you're running around, but they will also show up on the map for you to take notice of. The markers that you place will scale with the map, but the stamps won't. So they're more for like actually like making notes of, you know, the environment and the map, and like, you know, leave like little breadcrumbs for yourself. So one cool thing as well with the stamps and as well with the markers actually is if you place a stamp, you may have noticed this like highlight marker, and this is something that shows up on the regular markers as well. So what this does is if you select to highlight a marker, it will show up on the map, and it will also be highlighted in like the actual environment. So this is great if, you know, if you play like Breath of the Wild or, you know, Elden Ring or anything like that. It's pretty similar to that concept where, you know, it will show you sort of a beacon in the world. Makes it a bit easier for you to like explore and like figure out where to go. So, you know, if you're out exploring and you're like, oh cool, what's on this ridge? You can be like, mark this, you know, and highlight it, and then as you're running around the environment, you can see like, oh cool, look over there, the beacons are lit, Gondor calls for aid. You know, it makes it a little bit easier for you exploring, like having an actual like, you know, marker in the environment to sort of aim towards. Another key thing to take note of is that the stamps won't show up on the compass, whereas the you know, the regular markers will. However, if you highlight a stamp, you know, it will show up in the compass as you're running towards it in all haste. But that's the only occasion when the stamps will show up in the compass. Otherwise, they're supposed to be more so like pins on the map and like, you know, actual environmental marks. And you may also have noticed that there's this number down here, available markers and stamps, 11 out of 100. This number isn't like set in stone or anything like that, so don't read too much into this. Like maybe this is a good number, maybe this is way too few. We'll sort of see as time goes. Up here in the corner, you've got the show menu. So here's the new menu that we have for the map. And this is pretty similar to how it was before, but a couple of new additions here as well. So we've got the same kind of deal with where we order things. So you can select, you know, kind of like what you want to show on the map or not. You know, you can select to hide like all the vehicles if you want. You can hide all the radar towers and like all the other aspects of the game. You can also select here which parts should be in the compass or not. So if you want the vehicles to show up on the map but not in the compass, you know, that's a setting you can have here. So now the vehicle is gone, and then now it's back. And here you can also select if you want to like have all the stamps visible or not. So if you want to hide all the stamps, you're able to do it here as well. You now also have the options like search for stuff. So if you want to search for the grass fields or like the hub, you know, you can search for them here and they will pop up in the menu. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about are radar towers. So let me place a radar tower here. There we go. So the radar towers function a little bit differently now. So the way that radar towers used to work is that when you place a radar tower, it would sort of like unveil a portion of the map, and they still function the same way. So within a certain radius, it will like get rid of like the fog of war sort of. But one thing we've added to the radar towers are that if you hover over them, you will now see that radius, but you will also see sort of what's in that radius. So it will tell you sort of how many slugs there are in this radius. It will tell you how many of the other collectibles there are. Which, by the way, if you didn't know this, the Summer Sloop and the Mercer Sphere, they're both kind of like placeholder items that we have in the game. They are tied into the story of Satisfactory that's coming in 1.0. And they're in the game mostly now because we need to place them as placeholders so we know that where they are, how many there are, etc., etc. So, you know, there won't be like a huge subset of items just added. We may tweak these further down the line, so like I don't think it's actually worth collecting these at this point. But one thing that is important for you guys are the hard drives. So here you can see that there's 5 hard drives within this area. You can also get a sense of like what kind of like fauna are in there, what kind of flora exists here, etc., etc. And similar to like as before, you can also customize these. So you can name this like the grass fields, radar tower, as of recording this, you have to like actually go to the radar tower to name it. I think we have plans to sort of improve on this aspect as well later down the line, where you can actually rename stuff on the map here, but right now this isn't here in this current build. One key thing with the radar tower too is that they now also reveal all the resources within that area, within that radius of the radar tower. And this is great because now you can get a better sense of like what is in here, like what is here, instead of just using the scanner. So yeah, it will show you all the resources that are here. It will also show the purity if you hover over them. It will also show you if you've claimed them or not. So over here, for instance, I've claimed a couple of iron nodes and a couple of quartz nodes apparently. So yeah, I will show you like these here in the list, and you can also use this list like kind of like if you're looking specifically for copper ore, you can use this to highlight them on the map. If you want to look specifically for unclaimed copper ore, you can do that. If you want to look for specific claimed iron ore, for instance here, you can do this as well. They will highlight them. So yeah, this like the whole point of this is that you can get a better understanding of what's in the environment and a better sense of like plotting out what you want to do in that environment. So, you know, if you see this environment, you get the radar tower up, you notice that like, oh, there's 2 coal nodes here. I can probably use power, but I probably need to reroute, you know, conveyor belts going from this node to the other one if I want to use both. You know, there's a bunch of iron ore here, but they're all like impure maybe, so maybe I don't want to build there. You know, this is the whole sense of using the radar test is really so you can get a better understanding of like what's in here. I want to kind of point out too is that the changes that were made to the map here, they are mostly bound to exploration, right? There's not any changes to like how factory layouts or anything like that can tie into the map. We have some ideas for that, but we don't know if we'll like how far we'll go with that, or even if we'll go for that. So just so you guys know, like the map changes that we're making for now, they're all like exclusively for exploration purposes. Another little change we made to the compass is when you do the scan, the way it used to work is like if there's a bunch of nodes clutched together, they will kind of like when we scan them, they will all show up as like one thing. And that's great when you're like far away, because if we always show like every single node in the compass, it gets really cluttered really fast. So one thing we've added is that when you're far away from a node, for instance, like the one I have here, we have a different icon on it. So like when a node is clustered, it will show up like this in the compass. And if I come closer to it, let me just... How you doing there, Mr. Beanie? But as I get closer to the cluster, it will sort of like expand and open up, and now we'll scan for every single node within that cluster. So I think this is great because now it gives you a better like sense of which nodes that are in like your close vicinity. So sometimes when you've been like searching for a specific node, it might be hard to like find it, especially since, you know, the compass has like clustered them together. But now you actually have a sense of like where every single individual node are, making it a little bit easier to find every single one when they are clustered like they are here. So there you have it. Those are the changes that we're making to the map and the radar towers. We felt that it was important to kind of make these changes because we always felt that these aspects didn't, you know, fulfill sort of the role in the game, especially the radar towers. So hopefully you guys are stoked for the changes that were made here, and hopefully you guys will find this useful. There's probably a couple of occasions where we need to tweak some of the user experience aspects of the changes that were mapped, and these things will kind of come into place once we roll this out on experimental. You guys actually get to try it out and you know, feedback, and send us all your lovely feedback on our question site, questions.satisfactorygame.com, once the changes are in there. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, everybody. Hope you have a lovely day, and hopefully we'll see each other soon. All right, take care, everybody. Bye bye. Did I mention that? That's probably fine. All right, cool. Bye.